They say the truth has a way of arriving, not slowly, not gently. It pulls up in a black SUV on a Tuesday afternoon when nobody is ready for it. And it does not knock. It does not apologize. It simply arrives. His name was Barrister Femi Adeyemi. He had been looking for this compound for 12 years, not because he could not find it, because every time he sent something here, it disappeared. Inside that envelope was 13 years of truth, a name, a photograph, a DNA result, and a secret that one woman in this compound had been paid to keep. Stay with me, because the part where she gets found out, that is the part that will make your jaw drop twice. Amara Chukwu had been waking before the rest of the house since she was 6 years old. Not because anyone asked her to anymore, but because 13 years of being needed before you are wanted teaches your body to rise before anyone can come looking for you. It is easier that way. It is safer. She had been told when she was 13 that university was not for people like her. Learn a trade, her aunt Ngozi had said, not unkindly, which is the most dangerous way to say a cruel thing. Not unkindly, like she was doing Amara a favor by lowering her ceiling early, so she would not waste energy trying to reach it. There is a very specific kind of pain in being raised by people who see you as an obligation. It is not the shouting that breaks you. It is the small things. Being served last. Being spoken about like you are not in the room. Watching someone else get chosen again and again while you are merely tolerated. Chidinma wore designer pieces bought on weekend trips to Lagos. Amara wore hand-me-downs with the tags cut out, so no one would ask uncomfortable questions. Chidinma had a birthday party every year. Amara got a happy birthday muttered in passing, and a full day of housework regardless. But here is what they never accounted for. A girl who has been underestimated her whole life becomes very, very good at learning in the dark. She watches everything. She remembers everything. She stores everything away. For a day she is not sure will ever come, but refuses to stop believing in. And then, late one humid night, carrying a tray of forgotten dinner dishes past her aunt's bedroom, Amara heard something she was never supposed to hear. Her aunt hissing into a phone. The inheritance papers. The man in Port Harcourt. If that girl ever finds out who her father is, everything changes for us. Everything. Amara stood frozen in that hallway. She did not fully understand it yet, but she would 11 days later. 11 days after that dark hallway, a car pulled into that compound. Unlike anything the neighborhood had ever seen. The kind of car that makes everyone stop what they are doing. The kind of car that arrives with its own silence. Aunt Ngozi came out smiling. She was very good at smiling. 13 years of practice. But behind the smile, something was calculating very fast. I'm here for Amara Chukwu, he said. Only Amara. Aunt Ngozi's smile froze halfway. Amara, say she's just the she helps around the house. I have the right house, he said. I've had it for 12 years. I simply could not find the right girl inside it because someone has been returning my letters unopened for over a decade. Amara came out of the kitchen, wiping her hands. She had no idea if she was in trouble. 13 years in that house had trained her to always assume the worst. The lawyer looked at her and something shifted in his face. Not surprise, recognition. He handed her the envelope with both hands. The way you hand something to a person you already respect. This belongs to you. he said. It always has. Amara looked at her name on the front. She had never seen her name on anything official before. Not once. In 19 years, inside was a letter, a photograph, and a sealed document marked DNA verification results. The man in the photograph had her exact eyes, her exact jaw, the same quality of stillness in the face. Chief Emeka Okonkwo-Bell, billionaire, oil and shipping magnate, her father, the father she had been told did not exist. Her mother, before she passed, had hidden the truth to shield Amara from a bitter custody battle. And when grief took her mother, the letters meant to bring Amara home kept arriving at this address year after year for 12 years, and not one of them had ever left it. Aunt Ngozi's face changed color in real time. Chidima dropped her phone on the tiled floor and did not move to pick it up. The girl they had called the burden was about to become the sole heir to a shipping empire worth over $400 million. Then the lawyer opened the sealed document. The compound was so silent. You could hear the paper unfold. He read it. He looked at Amara. He said, "Confirmed. 99.98% match. Miss Chukwu, you are Chief Okonkwo-Bell's daughter." Without question, Amara did not cry. She did not smile. She stood completely still and felt something shift inside her that had nothing to do with money and everything to do with belonging. She had a father. She had always had a father. He had been looking for her. He had never stopped looking. But the lawyer was not finished. He turned slowly to face Aunt Ngozi, and the warmth left his voice completely. He said, "The chief also asked me to inform you that he knows about the agreement you signed 12 years ago." Aunt Ngozi went completely still. "The agreement where you promised to contact us if the girl showed any signs of the family resemblance. He knows you saw it. He knows you said nothing. 12 years ago, when the first DNA test came back inconclusive, the chief's legal team had contacted Aunt Ngozi directly. They had asked her to watch the girl, to report back if the resemblance became unmistakable, and they had paid her for it monthly for 12 years. She had not just intercepted letters. She had been paid to watch Amara. She had taken the money every month and watched this girl sleep in the smallest room, eat the smallest plate, wear the cutout tag hand-me-downs. While being paid to protect her, she kept the money and she kept the secret, and she used the girl the whole time. Amara looked at her aunt. She did not raise her voice. She did not cry. She simply looked, and in that look was 13 years of mornings before sunrise, 13 years of smallest plates, 13 years of cutout tags and borrowed rooms. And university is not for people like you. Aunt Ngozi looked away first. She had never been able to hold a gaze that knew the whole truth. 3 weeks after Amara walked out of that compound, she walked into a courtroom, not because she wanted to, because Aunt Ngozi had filed a case, claiming she deserved compensation for raising the girl she used as house help for 13 years. What Aunt Ngozi did not know was that Barrister Adeyemi had been building a case for 12 years. Letters, records, evidence, and something else. Something she said herself into a phone when she thought nobody was listening. Because when that recording played in open court. Even her own lawyer did not know it was coming, and his face said everything her words would not. Chief Emeka Okonkwo-Bell read the court papers twice before he said a single word. He was not an easily rattled man. 3 decades in oil and shipping had taught him that people fight hardest when they know deep down they are standing on nothing. But this was bold, even for a woman he had never met. Aunt Nosy was claiming, through her lawyer, that she had raised Amara as her own daughter for 13 years and was therefore entitled to compensation from the estate, a portion of the inheritance, for what she called the sacrifice of upbringing. Amara laughed when she heard it. Not the kind of laugh that means something is funny, the kind that comes out when something is so absurd, it physically has to escape your body. She fed me leftovers, Amara said quietly, and now she wants to be paid for it. Her father set the papers down. Do you want to fight this? Amara looked at him. I don't want to fight her with anger, she said. I want to fight her with the truth. Every letter she hid, every year she lied. Let the court see all of it. Barrister Adeyemi had spent 12 years building a case he never thought he would need in a courtroom. He had assumed once Amara was found, the story would end quietly. It didn't, so he opened the file he had kept locked away. 12 years of returned letters. Postal records showing delivery to that exact address. And something else. Something Aunt Ngozi did not know still existed. Barrister Adeyemi began methodically. Postal records showing 12 years of letters delivered to that exact compound address. All of them signed for, none of them forwarded. Aunt Ngozi's lawyer objected twice. Both objections were overruled. And then Barrister Adeyemi reached into his folder and produced something that changed the temperature in the room. Years earlier, when Chief Okonkwo-Bell first suspected his daughter was being hidden from him, he had hired a private investigator. That investigator had recorded a phone call. Aunt Ngozi speaking to a relative, saying words she believed would never leave that conversation. The judge nodded. Barrister Adeyemi pressed play, and in the complete silence of that courtroom, Aunt Ngozi's own voice filled the room. If Emeka ever finds that girl, our own children lose everything. Let him think she is dead, like her mother. The courtroom did not gasp. It went completely silent, the kind of silence that is louder than noise. Aunt Ngozi's lawyer put his pen down. He looked at his client. She would not look back at him. He had not known, and his face in that moment said everything her silence would not. In the back row, Chidinma stood up. She could not stay seated. She walked out slowly. The specific walk of someone who has made a decision in the middle of a public moment about who they are going to be. As she passed Amara's table, she stopped. She placed a folded piece of paper in front of her. She did not speak. She kept walking. Nobody in that courtroom knew what was written on it. Not yet. Aunt Ngozi watched the door close behind her daughter, and something left her face that had been there for 12 years. The calculation gone. What was left was just a woman who had chosen wrong so many times. She had lost count of what she was protecting. Aunt Ngozi's lawyer had one move left. He tried to use Amara's mother against her. Isn't it true, he said, that your mother herself chose to keep you from your father? That the fault for this separation lies with her, not my client. The room turned to Amara. She did not flinch. The night before, Barrister Adeyemi had placed a folder quietly in front of her. Inside, a letter written by her mother, Ijeoma, dated 3 months before she died. Amara had read it alone, at midnight, in a room she was still learning to call hers. She had held it for a long time before she put it down. Ijeoma had not hidden Amara to punish anyone. She had run because the chief's own family, his mother specifically, had threatened her, told her that a child born outside their approved family lineage would never be accepted, would never be safe, and that if she ever tried to claim inheritance rights for her daughter, accidents happen to women like you. She hid Amara to protect her, not from her father, from his family. Amara read part of the letter aloud. Her voice shook for the first time since this whole ordeal began. Not from anger, from grief. Real, complicated grief. For a mother who had carried a burden alone and never once told her daughter the weight of what she was protecting her from, Chief Okonkwo, sitting 3 rows back, wept openly. He had not known either. His own mother had threatened the woman he loved, had driven her away, had cost him 12 years and a daughter, and he had never been told. But there was one more thing in the letter. 3 months before she died, Ijeoma had written to the chief himself a final letter telling him exactly where Amara was, asking him to find her, to bring her home. That letter was never received. The chief had never seen it, which meant someone inside his own household had intercepted it, and that person was still there. The judge did not take long, and Ngozi's claim dismissed entirely. Not denied, dismissed, with a formal note in the ruling condemning her conduct in intercepting the letters. He called it, in his own words, a deliberate and sustained deception that deprived a child of her father for over a decade. There would be no compensation, no settlement, nothing. Outside the courthouse, cameras flashed, and Ngozi said nothing. She simply lowered her head and walked to her car, alone. While Chidinma stood several feet away, unable to look at her, Amara did not gloat. She did not smile for the cameras. She turned to her father, took his arm, and walked away from that courthouse toward the rest of her life. That night, alone in the quiet of her new room, Amara unfolded Chidinma's note. She read it twice. Then she sat very still for a long time. Chidinma knew something about the letter her mother sent to the chief. The one that never arrived. The one intercepted by someone inside his own household. Chidinma knew, and she was willing to tell. 6 months into her new life, Amara had a walk-in closet, bigger than the entire room she used to sleep in. She had staff who called her ma and meant it. She had a seat on her father's board. She had everything except peace. When you have spent your whole life being invisible and suddenly everyone can see you, it takes time to learn the difference between being seen and being targeted. 3 months later, Barrister Adeyemi placed a folder in front of her, thinner than the first one, but it hit just as hard because this one was not about her aunt. This one was about the man who had spent 3 months asking about her childhood and who had been sent to find her by someone who already knew every answer. She had a seat on her father's board, though she was still learning what half the terms in those meetings meant. She had designer bags she did not ask for, sent by companies hoping she would post them online. She had everything, and she still lay awake some nights, wondering if any of the people laughing in those rooms would still be laughing if the 400 million disappeared. More than once she sat in a room full of people, laughing at her jokes, and felt more isolated than she ever did sleeping alone in that cold room at her aunt's house, because there is a very specific kind of loneliness that money creates, the kind where you cannot tell anymore who is staying for you and who is staying for what you represent. The one person who surprised her was Chidinma. After the note at the courthouse, Chidinma had reached out, not groveling, not performing remorse, just showing up consistently, quietly. Amara was watching to see how long that would last. 3 months after the court case closed, Amara attended a charity gala at the invitation of one of her father's associates. She wore a dress that cost more than her aunt's household earned in a month, and she sat with a glass of water in her hand and watched the room the way she had always watched rooms, looking for what was real underneath the performance. His name was Tobena, handsome, well-spoken. He didn't approach her like the others did. He didn't compliment her dress. He didn't ask about her father's business. He sat beside her and looked at the room and said, "Everyone in here is performing something. What are you performing tonight?" Amara looked at him. It was the first honest question anyone had asked her in months. He asked about her childhood. Not the headline version, the real one. What it felt like, what she missed, what she learned. And Amara talked for almost an hour about the boys' quarters, about feeling invisible for 13 years, about the hand-me-down clothes with the tags cut out. Things she had not said out loud to anyone. Tobena listened like every word mattered. For the first time since the SUV arrived, Amara felt like someone was interested in her, not the $400 million attached to her name. What Amara did not know, and what Chidinma did not know either, was that Tobena had not arrived at that gala by accident. He had been told she would be there. He had been told what to say. And he had been told what she was missing. Over the following weeks, Tobena was consistent. That was what made him dangerous. Not the grand gestures, the consistency. He called when he said he would. He remembered the small things she mentioned. He never asked about money, never mentioned the estate, and Amara, who had spent 19 years waiting to be chosen, began, very carefully, to let him in. Barrister Adeyemi saw a photograph of Tobena 3 weeks after the gala. He said nothing at first, but he made a phone call that evening. The same instincts that had built a 12-year case were now turning in a new direction, toward protecting the girl he had once handed an envelope to on a quiet Tuesday morning. 2 weeks after that phone call, Barrister Adeyemi placed a second folder in front of Amara, thinner than the first, but it hit just as hard. Tobena had no verified job. What he had was a pattern. 3 previous relationships with wealthy women across Lagos and Abuja, each one ending shortly after. Significant sums of money went missing from their accounts. None of them had pressed charges. All of them had been too embarrassed to admit how thoroughly they had been fooled. He asked about my childhood, she said quietly. Nobody asks about that. He made it feel real. Barrister Adeyemi looked at her. That's exactly why it worked, he said gently. The best liars don't lead with what they want. They lead with what you're missing. Then Barrister Adeyemi turned to the last page and he read her a name. The name of the person who introduced Tobena to the social circle, who gave him Amara's background, who told him what she was missing, who pointed him directly at her vulnerability and said, "This one." The name was Mrs. Okafor, the chief's personal secretary, 15 years in that household. The same household where Ijoma's final letter was intercepted. Amara sat very still. Mrs. Okafor, the woman who brought her tea the first morning she arrived at the estate, who called her welcome home, Miss Amara, with a warm smile. The same woman who had intercepted her mother's final letter 15 years ago. She had been in that house this whole time, working against the chief, against Amara, and she had never once stopped smiling. Amara invited Tubena to dinner at the estate, the same estate he had been slowly angling to move into. He arrived confident. He had been here before. He knew this house. What he did not know was that Chidinma would be sitting at that table. Amara had invited her, not for support, because Chidinma was the one who introduced them, and she needed to see what she had unknowingly helped build. She placed the folder on the table without a word. He looked at it, then at her, then at Chidinma, and he tried the trick that had worked 3 times before, softening his voice, reaching for her hand. It's not what it looks like. I really do care about you. Amara pulled her hand back. You know what is funny? She said. My aunt raised me to believe I wasn't worth loving. You spent 3 months convincing me I finally was, just so you could take something from me the moment I let my guard down. 2 very different people, same exact lesson underneath it. Chidinma watched the whole thing. She watched Tubena try every version of the story and run out of versions. She watched Amara not raise her voice once, and something in Chidinma's face shifted permanently that evening, not toward guilt, toward something harder and cleaner. An alliance, the real kind, that is built from having watched someone you wronged handle something with more dignity than you deserved to witness. She had security walk him out that night. No shouting, no scene for anyone to gossip about. Just the quiet, absolute certainty of a woman who was done being anyone's opportunity. Chidinma poured them both a glass of water. Neither of them spoke for a while. They didn't need to. It had been a year since Amara walked out of that compound for the last time. A year since she had heard her aunt's voice, except through lawyers and courtroom transcripts. And now she was driving back. Not because anyone had won anything, because some conversations cannot stay buried forever. Even the ones both people are actively trying to avoid. The house looked smaller than she remembered. Smaller and quieter, without her aunt's voice filling every room. She sat in the car for a moment before she got out. Not from fear, from the specific deliberateness of someone who has decided to do something hard and is choosing to do it slowly and correctly. And then she saw her through the open door of that house, sitting in the living room, tea in hand. Mrs. Okafor, the woman who had been working against her for 15 years in her dying aunt's house. Amara did not stop working. 3 days before, it was Chidinma who called, not her mother. Amara almost did not answer. A year of silence had built a wall between her and everything that compound represented, but something made her pick up. Chidinma's voice was different than Amara remembered. Smaller, less certain of itself. My mother is sick, she said. Stage 4. Maybe 2 months. She keeps asking for you. She said there is something you deserve to know before she goes. Amara sat with the phone in her hand for a long time after the call ended, staring at nothing. She had spent a year in therapy, learning to protect her peace from that part of her past. Her therapist said something she had been turning over for weeks. closure often matters more for your own peace than for anyone else's comfort. You are not going back for her. You are going back for yourself. She decided to go. Not because Aunt Ngozi deserved it. Not because anyone had asked nicely. Because she was done letting that chapter sit unfinished inside her. And because the girl who used to carry everyone's leftovers had learned over a very hard year that she got to decide what she carried now. Mrs. Okafor stood when Amara entered. The professional reflex, the warmth assembling itself on her face, the way it always did. Miss Amara, sit down, Amara said. Not loud, not angry, the specific quiet of someone who does not need volume to fill a room. Chidima appeared from the back of the house. She stopped when she saw the room, the two women, the specific quality of the silence between them. She looked at Amara. Amara looked back at her. We are going to need everyone here for this, Amara said, including your mother. Aunt Ngozi was smaller than Amara remembered, not just physically. The authority had left the room before Amara arrived. What was left was just a person, frightened, human, running out of time. You came, she said, her voice different than it had ever been. Chidima said there was something I needed to know, Amara said. But first, we are all going to be in the same room. 3 women in the same room, one dying, one caught, and one who had decided that she was not leaving this house until every hidden thing in it had a name. Amara looked at Mrs. Okafor. Then, she took out her phone and she dialed her father. Speaker on. Mrs. Okafor's face changed. Not dramatically, the way a building changes when the foundation shifts. Everything still standing, but nothing the same underneath. Her father answered on the second ring. Amara, is everything alright? I need you to listen, she said. I am in Aunt Ngozi's house. Mrs. Okafor is here, and I need you to hear what I am going to tell you. Without stopping me, a pause. Go ahead, her father said. She told him everything. Ijoma's final letter intercepted. 15 years of Mrs. Okafor inside his household. Tubena sent to find Amara's wounds. The promise made to his own mother, now dead, to protect a purity that had cost 2 women everything. She spoke for 4 minutes. Nobody in the room made a sound. The chief was quiet for a moment. Then he spoke, not to Amara, to Mrs. Okafor. He said, I trusted you with my household for 15 years. I trusted you with my daughter's safety. You will leave that estate by tonight. You will not take anything that does not belong to you, and you will never contact my family again. He paused. My mother's prejudices were hers to carry. You made them yours. That is the part I cannot forgive. Mrs. Okafor stood. She picked up her bag. At the door, she paused. She looked at Amara, and she said nothing because there was nothing left to say that the chief had not already said for her. The door closed, and the room became a different room the moment she left it. When the door closed behind Chidinma, the room was very quiet. Aunt Ngozi looked at Amara and she said, your mother didn't just hide you to protect you from your father's family. I helped her do it. In the beginning, before the money made me forget why we were doing it, Ijoma had come to her in terror. After the threats from the Okonko Bell family, Ngozi had helped her genuinely at first, had helped her disappear, had raised Amara in those early years out of real love for her sister. Real love, not obligation. That was the part Amara had not known. But then, Ijoma died and the bills came and her marriage crumbled, and Chidema's school fees grew, and somewhere in the years that followed, the reason for hiding Amara quietly shifted from protection into convenience, and eventually into something uglier. The fear of losing whatever financial benefit might come from being the one who raised a billionaire's daughter. I told myself I was still protecting you, she whispered. But somewhere along the way, I started protecting myself instead, and I let a child pay the price for my fear. I am sorry, Amara, not because I am dying, because it is true, and it was always true, and I should have said it a long time ago. Aunt Ngozi wept, and for the first time in either of their lives, it was not performance. It was simply grief, honest and unguarded, between two people who had run out of reasons to pretend. Amara sat with that for a long time. She thought about the boys' quarters, the hand-me-downs, the smallest plates, the years of being served last, and then she reached out and took her aunt's hand. I am not going to pretend the last 13 years did not happen, she said, but I am also not going to let anger be the last thing I give you. I forgive you, not because you have earned it, because I do not want to carry this into whatever comes next for me. You can keep the guilt if you need it. I am putting mine down. Aunt Ngozi passed away 6 weeks later. Amara attended the funeral. She sat beside Chidema, who no longer had a place in the world where she truly belonged. Then Amara quietly told her that the door to a real relationship would always be open whenever she was ready to walk through it with honesty. This is the story of a girl who slept in the boys' quarters, ate leftovers, was told university was not for people like her. Over 4 episodes, you watched her find her father, win a court case, survive a con man, and forgive a dying woman who never truly deserved it but needed it anyway. Now, in this final episode, we find out what Amara actually did with everything she gained. And I promise you, it is not what most people would have done. 2 years after that black SUV first rolled into the compound, Amara Okonkwo-Bell sat in a boardroom she once would have only ever claimed. She had grown into the business, really grown into it, not just wearing the title, understanding it. She asked questions in meetings that made seasoned executives sit up a little straighter. Her father, watching from across the table one afternoon, felt something he had not let himself feel in years. Certainty that the empire he had built would be in good hands, that his daughter had turned 13 years of being underestimated into the sharpest instinct in the room, the ability to spot exactly who was genuine and who was performing. But business was not where Amara chose to leave her mark. She had been thinking about something for a year, something specific, something personal, something that had nothing to do with shipping routes and everything to do with a compound at dawn, and a girl who had been sweeping alone before anyone else woke up. Something happens to people who have known real hunger, real invisibility, real powerlessness, and then suddenly find themselves with the resources to change things. Some people forget where they came from entirely. Others cannot stop looking back. Amara did neither. She looked back on purpose, and then she built something with what she saw. She called it the Ijoma Fund, after her mother. Its purpose was simple and deeply personal: scholarships and housing support for children being raised by extended family after losing a parent. The exact situation Amara had lived through herself, without anyone checking whether she was safe, fed properly, or given a fair chance at an education, Within the first year, the Ijoma Fund had placed over 300 children with verified, monitored guardians and paid for their schooling through university. Amara insisted on one condition for every case the foundation supported: regular, unannounced welfare visits. No child under the foundation's care would ever again be quietly erased the way she almost was. She gave the first scholarship personally to a 16-year-old girl in Enugu, being raised by an aunt who had already made her drop out of school to help around the house. Amara recognized herself instantly in that girl's downcast eyes. At the lunch, the girl stood at the microphone. She was not a comfortable public speaker, but she was an honest one. She said, "They told me university was not for people like me. I believed them for 2 years. I do not believe them anymore." Amara, in the front row, heard those words land. She did not cry. She just held very still, the way you hold still when something completes. Barrister Adeyemi found her at the edge of the room. He looked at the banner, at the children, at everything in that room that had come from a single Tuesday morning, and an envelope with a name on it. He said, "I found an envelope for a girl once. I never imagined it would become this." Amara looked at him. "You did not just find an envelope," she said. "You found me." He nodded once. That was all. Some things do not need more than that. Chidinma showed up uninvited, standing quietly at the back of the room in a dress far simpler than anything she used to wear. After her mother passed, the house had been sold to cover debts. Nobody knew Aunt Ngozi had been hiding. Chidinma found herself for the first time in her life without a safety net. Amara saw her from across the room, and instead of turning away, she walked straight toward her. "I wasn't sure I should come," Chidinma admitted. "I told you the door would be open," Amara said. "I meant it." She did not hand Chidinma money. She offered her a job at the foundation. Entry level, real work, the same chance to build something honest that nobody had ever offered Amara herself. Chidinma took it. And slowly, over the following months, something neither of them expected began to grow. Not the fake closeness Chidinma had tried to manufacture. The week the story went public, something real, built the slow way, through actual time spent, actual trust, rebuilt one small moment at a time. They would never be what they could have been if 13 years had gone differently. But what they were building was theirs, honestly theirs, and that was enough. Every year, on the anniversary of that Tuesday, Amara visits her mother's grave, not with sadness anymore, with gratitude for a woman who protected her at an unbearable cost and never once got to see how it all turned out. She always says the same thing, standing there. "I found out who I really was, and then I decided who I was going to become. Those turned out to be two very different things, and I am grateful for both." If you ask Amara today what the inheritance actually gave her, she will not lead with the mansion, or the board seat, or the $400 million that started this whole story. She will tell you it gave her the chance to stop being defined by the people who once decided she was not worth much. She will tell you that revenge, the kind people fantasize about, is loud and satisfying for about a day, but it fades. What lasts is what you build afterward. and who you become while you are building it. Real glow-ups are not just about what you gain for yourself. They are about what you refuse to let happen to someone else once you finally have the power to stop it. Amara Chukwu Bell was 6 years old when her mother died. She was 19 when the truth arrived in an envelope. She was 21 when she walked through a gate and found a girl sweeping a compound alone. Before anyone else was awake, she did not see a stranger. She saw herself and she smiled because this time someone was coming. That is the story of the lost heiress. A girl who was thrown away, who found her way back to herself and then spent everything she gained, making sure fewer children ever have to feel invisible in their own home again. If this series meant something to you, comment full circle below and tell me which episode hit you hardest. If you are new here, go back and watch the whole series from episode 1 because this is exactly the kind of story we tell on this channel. Real talk, real love, real healing. Comment full circle and tell me which episode hit you hardest. Share this with someone who needs to hear this story today. Subscribe to Moonlight Tales by Joy. New series every Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays and Sunday. Please like the video and share it with someone. Drop in the comments what you felt about our story so far. I read every single one of it. Thank you.